Welcome Algebra 1 students to another Regents review video. This is the January 2016 Algebra 1 Common Core Regents exam for New York State. These are going to be the solutions for Part 1, questions 13 through 24. This is the second half of the multiple choice section of this test. Before we begin here, make sure that you do not cheat and take my answers and hand them in for homework if you are reviewing for your exam and you got to get things done. Please try the questions on your own. But if you were here to check your answers, you've come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button down below and make sure that you visit my website at www.nysmathregengsprep.com. And I use the TI Inspire CX in this video because Algebra 1 definitely requires a use of a graphing calculator often. Without further ado, let's begin. We're starting off with question number 13. All right, here we go. The table below shows the cost of mailing a postcard in different years. During which time interval did the cost increase at the greatest average rate? You need to know that average rate means slope, which you know that the slope formula is change in y over the change in x, which is just y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's go ahead and calculate the slope. So the slope between, okay, so unfortunately all right, so they give us all these times here. All right, so just to save a little bit of time, I'm not going to go through each answer choice, but I will tell you that the answer is choice 4 from 2006 to 2012. And I want to just do the slope formula for you here, and then you could just apply it back to the old to all of the other answers just to make sure that I'm right. So the slope, remember, is change in y over the change in x, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So all you have to do is just take those values, which it looks like, all right, so this is x, this is y. So this is going to be 35 minus 24 over 2012 minus 2006, which is equal to 11 over 6. And 11 over 6 is greater than all of these other answer choices that you see here. So your answer is going to be choice 4. I promise you, if you do the slope with all of these, the numbers that you will get will be less than 11 over 6. Okay, moving on to question 14. When solving the equation x squared minus 8x minus 7 equals 0 by completing the square, which equation is a step in the process? So to complete the square, remember that you need to keep your letters on one side, numbers on the other side, and you need to input a value in the equation to force this to be a perfect square trinomial. In order to find what's in this space, you have to apply the formula. I'm going to put it over here. You have to apply the formula b divided by 2 squared. So you take half the middle, or the linear term, which is negative 8 over 2, and you square it. That will give you a result of 16. 16 and 16. So now we factor. Well, what adds to negative 8 and multiplies to give you 16? That is x minus 4, which is equal to 23. Now, this can be rewritten as x minus 4 squared equals 23 because there are, in fact, 2 of them. Now, if you go back to your answer choices, the correct answer is going to be choice 2. That is a step in the process to get that answer correct. And that's how you do number 14. Moving on. A construction company uses the function f of p, where p is the number of people working on the project, to model the amount of money it spends to complete the project. A reasonable domain for the function would be what? So the domain, remember, are considered your x values. But in this case, they're not x values, they're your p values. Well, p represents the number of people working on a project. Is positive integers the correct answer? Yes, it is. Because people can only be positive and whole. Positive real numbers. Now, a real number could be a fraction. So no fractions of a person. Both positive and negative, you can't have negative people, so no negative people. You can't have a negative person. And both positive and negative, again, no negative person. So your answer is going to be choice 1. Number 16, which function is shown in the table below? The best way to do this is to graph the answers that you think might be it. Just by looking at it, I hope that you realize that you're multiplying each time by 3. So it is, in fact, exponential growth or an exponential function. So you're multiplying by 3, multiplying by 3, multiplying by 3, multiplying by 3, and then multiplying by 3 each time. So this is, in fact, an exponential function. So if you're looking at all of your answer choices, 3x, no, that's a line, so that makes no sense. X plus 3, no, that's a line, that makes no sense. Negative x to the third, no, that is a cubic function. 3 to the x, that's exponential. So your answer choice for this question is going to be choice 4 for that answer. Now, if you want to confirm it, type it in the calculator and you will get your answer. If you go to your graph, type in 3 raised to the x, and then you could just do Control T, and you compare your values. Oh, look at that. 0.111, 0.333, 139, 27, and it stops down there. So that's your answer. 17. Given the functions h of x equals 1/2 x plus 3 and j of x equals the absolute value of x, for which value of x makes these two equations equal to each other? So your job is to take this and graph it, and take this and graph it. So go right to your calculator. I'm going to type in 1/2 x plus 3. Now, the reason why I'm telling you to type it in is you don't know how to solve absolute value functions by hand, so we do have to go ahead and graph it, okay? Because I assume that you don't know how to solve absolute value functions by hand, but this is quite simple. So go to Menu, Analyze Graph Intersection, click. So the x value is -2 that intersects, and over up here, so your answer is either -2 or 6. Now, when it says the value of x, we're only looking at the x value, so -2 or 6. And your answer is -2. Choice 1. All right. Not too bad of a question. Just go ahead and graph it in your calculator, and you're good to go. Number 18. Which recursively defined function represents the sequence 3, 7, 15, 31? So first of all, you need to know that your first term is 3. Well, does that help us? No. All of the first terms in these answers are the number 3. So that really doesn't help us. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to plug in values of n and see if it results in my answer. So let's try, for example, choice 1. And let's just say I want to find, well, what is f of 2? Well, f of 2, in order to acquire f of 2, watch this. N has to be 1 to get 2, because 1 plus 1 is 2. So f of 2, you really have to do f of 1 plus 1, which is equal to 2 raised to f of 1 plus 3. Well, what is f of 1? F of 1 is 3. So we get 2 raised to the third plus 3. That's going to be 8 plus 3. That's equal to 11. That's not equal to 7. So choice 1 is definitely wrong out of the question. Makes no sense. Let's try this one. So this is the same process. So f of 1 plus 1 will give you f of 2. That's going to be 2 raised to the f of 1 minus 1. That's 2. F of 1 is 3 minus 1. You then get 8 minus 1, which is 7. Okay, so far that's good. Let's try the next one. Well, we get f of 2 plus 1 to get f of 3. So we get 2 to the f of 2 minus 1. That's equal to 2 raised to the 7th minus 1. So if we go back, 2 raised to the 7th minus 1, we get 127. That is not equal to 15, ladies and gentlemen. So that makes no sense either. Now we got to keep going. Again, now this problem, it's tedious, but I promise you that you will get it right if you just keep on doing this process. Let's try this one. So we get f of 1 plus 1 is equal to 2f of 1 plus 1. That gives us 2 times f of 1 is 3 plus 1. That gives you 6 plus 1, which is equal to the number 7. So now let's try f of 2 plus 1. That's 2f of 2 plus 1. We're trying to find f of 3. F of 3 is equal to 2. F of 2 is 7 plus 1. That's equal to 14 plus 1. So f of 3 is equal to 15. Ding, ding, ding. That is your answer. That is the correct recursively defined function that represents that sequence. That took a while, but you got the right answer. 19. The range of the function defined as y equals 5 raised to the x is what? I love this question because you probably didn't even learn this yet. I am going to graph this in my calculator, and I'm going to explain what's going on. 5 raised to the x power. They're asking you for the range. The range is your y value. So your range is, look at this. It's kind of stopping at the x-axis, and it's definitely going above. Your answer is y is greater than 0. And I want to talk about this. This is the answer because the asymptote is the equation y equals 0. Now, what in the world, if you haven't heard of it yet, what in the world is an asymptote? Okay, well, an asymptote is just a value of a line or some sort of an equation where the function slowly and slowly approaches that value. So, for example, if I type in the equation y equals 0, that is your asymptote. You see how the pink is slowly and slowly approaching the blue? Listen, it looks like it touches the blue, but it actually doesn't. If I take a magnifying glass and I zoom in, look at this. The pink and the blue actually never touch, and that's what an asymptote is. An asymptote never ever touches the function. It took a while to get there, but look, the pink never touches the blue. So that's why it is going to be y is greater than 0. That is your range. It can never be equal to 0. It can never be equal to 0, and it cannot be less than 0. So that's why it's going to be choice 2. All right, number 20. The graph of y equals f of x is shown below. What is the graph of y equals f of x plus 1 minus 2? So you need to know that this is showing what? Well, that x plus 1, this is showing a horizontal shift to the left by 2 units. No, I'm sorry, by 1 unit. My apologies. By 1 unit. It's going to the left because, remember, if it's in the parentheses, it's opposite the sign. That's a horizontal shift to the left by 1 unit, and this negative 2 represents a vertical shift down by 2 units because it is the same as the sign. So the only one that would work would be choice 1, because choice 1 clearly shows that you're shifting to the left by 1 and then down by 2. All right, and that is your answer to question number 20. All right, moving on to 21. Which pair of equations could not be used to solve for the following equations for x plus y? All they're testing your knowledge, well, they're testing your knowledge on whether or not you could determine if you multiply by a scale factor, would it create the same solution? So we're looking here, and then we're looking at all of our answer choices. So the top equation is the same. The bottom equation, all they did in the bottom equation is they just took out a negative 1, and then they changed all the signs in the equation. That's not changing the equation at all. It's just changing the way it looks. So that does produce the same solution. 4x plus 2y equals 22, and negative 4x plus 4y equals negative 16. This works. All they did on the bottom is they just multiplied this by a positive 2 to get this. Because if you take the bottom equation and you multiply it by 2, it does result in that down here. So choice 2 is, in fact, correct. No, sorry. Correct as in they produce the same solution. So that is incorrect. We're looking for the one that's not. Choice 3, okay, so up here, they just decided to multiply it by the number 3. So they decided to say, all right, let's take this, multiply it by 3, and they took the bottom and they multiplied it by 3 as well. That's not changing the problem. You're just dilating the lines. It doesn't make a difference. Choice 4, okay, so they decided to multiply the top by 2, and they decided to multiply the bottom by, it looks like 4. Uh-oh, but we have a problem. If you take the 4 and you multiply it in, that's negative 8x plus 8y. 4 times negative 8 does not give you negative 8. This number should be negative 32. That's where the mistake happened. So when you dilate, you have to multiply it to every single number, and in this case, they failed to do that. So choice 4 is the correct answer because that will not produce the same solution for x and y. All right, 22. The graph representing a function is shown below. Which function has a minimum that is less than the one shown in the graph? So the minimum value of this function is the point 3, negative 7. So they're saying which function is less than the number negative 7? Well, I'm just going to tell you what each minimum is. The minimum for choice 1 is the point 3, negative 2. And you could graph these all on your calculator, but I'm not going to waste your time. The minimum for choice 2 is the point negative 3, negative 6. Are any of these numbers less than negative 7? So is negative 2 less than 7? Is negative 6 less than 7? Sorry, negative 7? No, it is not. Choice 3 is showing a minimum. It's showing a minimum of 1, negative 11. Oh, wait a minute. Choice 3 is the answer because negative 11 is less than the number negative 7. It's asking you for less of a value. Your answer is choice 3. And the minimum value for choice 4 is 8, 2. 2 is, of course, not less than the value of negative 7. All right, that's how you do that question. Last two of this exam, or for this video. Grisham is considering the 3 situations below. The first, for the first 28 days, a sunflower grows at a rate of 3.5 centimeters per day. 2 says the value of a car depreciates at a rate of 15% per year after it is purchased, and the amount of bacteria in a culture triples every 2 days during the experiment. Which of the statements describes a situation with an equal difference over an equal interval? This is tricky. You had to know by definition an equal difference over an equal interval is the definition of a line. This is a line. Equal differences over equal intervals, meaning that you are going up by the same interval and going to the left or right by the same interval. So choice 1, the first option is showing linear, because it is saying that is growing at a rate of 3.5 centimeters per day. Yeah, that's a constant rate of change. The second choice is showing 15% depreciating. This is an exponential function. And the amount of bacteria triples, again, that is showing exponential. So your correct answer for this question is going to be choice 1, because this is the only one that is showing linear, and equal differences over equal intervals does describe a line or a linear function. All right, last question. After performing analyses on a set of data, Jackie examined the scatter plot of the residual values for each analysis. Which scatter plot indicates the best linear fit for the data? So you were looking for no pattern at all. So basically, you're looking for no pattern whatsoever. Well, choice 1 does show a pattern. It shows that U-shaped pattern. So that's not good. Choice 2, this is showing a pattern. Yeah, it looks like maybe an absolute value, like a check mark. That's not the answer, because this is showing a pattern. This is showing scattering of points. So this is no pattern. So that's the answer. And choice 4 does show a pattern going up and then going down. So that is no good because that does show a pattern. So your answer is going to be choice 3 because there is no pattern. For best linear fit, you are looking for no pattern whatsoever, just a random scattering of points. And that's the definition of a residual. All right. That is the conclusion of this video. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below, and please visit my website at www.nysmathregentsprep.com for more math content in Algebra 1 and more math subjects such as geometry and Algebra 2, and I'll see you soon.